The Bruins have done a lot in the transfer portal, but how can DeShaun Foster maintain this top 5 transfer success in the 2026 high school recruiting class?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free, wherever you get your podcast. Ads available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Where we get started, UCLA, let's take a look at their 2026 class recruiting. All right, let's get right into it. The Bruins, if you look at 24/7 Sports, they're a top 55 class. Wait. Is that impressive? 54th in the country? That could do a lot better. A lot of it is because UCLA only has 4 commits in the class of 2026. The Pula brothers, they've got Kenneth Moore, Jonas Smith. That's 4 receivers, maybe an athlete mixed in there, all 6 feet, 5'10", 6'2.5". Now, UCLA has done a lot of work in this portal, and a lot of these players do have multiple years of eligibility. So this top 5 class, according to rivals in the transfer portal upcoming, may have an impact on years to come. With the transfer portal in the fall or in the winter, and then next year's spring window, there's still a lot of things to figure out, but there are still a lot of players with so much potential, at least 1 to 2 years, right? You can go anywhere from Nico Iamaleava to any of the incoming transfers within the last week. These guys have another year, 2 or more of eligibility, which could lead to UCLA having a less aggressive approach heading into the later spring, early summer, where recruiting for 2026 will pick up for the Bruins. But I was looking at the ESPN rankings of the top classes in this 2026 class, and you're looking, all right, unfortunately, I have to say it, but USC at the moment is number 1 in 26. Then you keep going down the line. You're like, okay, who's in the rest of the top 10? Syracuse is number 8, and I'm like, well, hey, can't UCLA recruit with Syracuse? And Syracuse is top 8 in the country in their 2026 class. Whether they stay there for the whole summer, for the whole recruiting class in the final rankings remains to be seen, but I think UCLA could certainly recruit with the likes of Syracuse if they actually put their mind to it. Kansas, number 9. Arizona State, number 10. So you've seen 2 West Coast, 2 Western-based teams. I know ASU is now in the Big 12, but those are still places in the hotbed of recruiting on this western part of the U.S. where they're right above UCLA. It's not like they've had crazy success, USC or ASU. Obviously, ASU made the playoff last year, but sustained over the last few years, not necessarily. Of course, I think with Kenny Dillingham, ASU will do a lot more, and we'll see what USC does. But they have gone after these 2026 recruits. So you keep going. You're like, Oregon, top 15. That's expected. They're always going to be near the top 20. You keep going down the line. You're like, oh, Washington, 19th in the country. So those are 3 West Coast, Western-based programs, all rated way higher than UCLA, going after some top-tier talent. You see BYU's in there. Rutgers in the top 25. They've got a couple of top commits in the ESPN top 300. You see Baylor. I'm just like, these are a couple of programs based on their success the last few seasons. You look at what UCLA's been doing. How can the Bruins not recruit and out-recruit some of these programs, which a lot of it's been focused on how can we improve this roster for 2025. Makes a lot of sense. The Bruins swung for the fences and changed quarterbacks literally in the middle of the spring. Unheard of somewhat when you go after a kid like Nico Iamaleava with the number 1 prospect in the portal rating coming with his tag to UCLA, bringing more talent, more defensive depth at various positions. A lot more talent at the running back spot. When you bring in Javian Thomas, they got a tight end the other day. UCLA is making things happen. And then you sit there like, well, still some of the best 2026 QBs are out there. And you have Oscar Rios from Downey. Where do you think Warren is? From the likes of, the Iamaleavas. That's where they played. Warren in Long Beach Poly. That's Downey. So you got Oscar Rios, one of the top quarterbacks in the area. UCLA offered him at the QB spot. He's like, UCLA is my dream school. There's so many of those guys that will come out and say, UCLA is my dream school. It's in my backyard. The Rose Bowl is something they've been to, or they're like, the Rose Bowl is much better than the Coliseum. Maybe they didn't grow up as USC fanboys. And there's guys like that. There are kids like that. There are kids in college. There are kids who are on their way to the NFL, becoming young men, making millions of dollars, or trying to at the NFL level, who would have wanted to come to UCLA during the Chip Kelly era, who have transferred in or transferred out based on certain coaching changes, or are guys in the high schools right now, are youngsters who are working their way up to becoming potential UCLA fans. The Bruins just got to go out and recruit them. And I think now with a bigger recruiting effort in 2026, the Bruins must emphasize, hey, if DeShaun Foster wants to point out, look at all these guys in the NFL draft more than USC, keep the local talent, you've got to go get the local talent. You can't have those rankings reflect that, oh, all these teams are bringing in dudes, and they keep, if you want to show rankings, hey, look, this is where we're bringing in talent. And if there's a kid like Rios, who I think I saw was interviewed by Jason McDaniel, the Bruin Blitz of Rivals affiliate for UCLA, and he was saying, yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the Iamaleava's potential quarterback competition there. He's not afraid of competition. Like, bring it on. And there's plenty of those kids who are not afraid of competition, at least for a year or two before their career wants to go elsewhere. So if you want to go get top talent in SoCal, the Bruins got to go get it. Top 5 in the transfer portal, according to Rivals, in 2025. And now they got to start doing things. It's not like they haven't thrown offers around. It's not like this is the Chip Kelly era of recruiting. They've just had a lot more emphasis on this 2025 season because the spring portal was as fruitful as one could be for UCLA. Honestly, you don't expect to bring in that many game-changing transfers for the present and the future in that 2-3 week-ish window for UCLA. That's a lot of changes the Bruins are making on top of the offensive coordinating, on top of the NFL talent drafted, on top of already the incoming transfer list was nearing 20 before the spring, and players committing to UCLA, decommitting to UCLA from the winter, committing to UCLA in the winter, and then, oh, I got to go elsewhere because the Bruins brought in Nico, obviously the Joey Aguilar situation. So many things are moving parts. That's why recruiting is a crazy game to be played with right now, as we're trying to figure out if these players will be directly paid soon enough, how that's going to work when they figure out the House versus NCAA settlement. But for now, the Bruins got to go and make something happen in the 2026 recruiting class. I'm not doubting in their ability. That's just where they're at now, and the Bruins have to start figuring it out. Now that the spring showcase is over, spring practice, spring ball, this is where the Bruins, with their little off season, will see Nico finish his time at Tennessee and start learning the playbook. But what was he doing on Saturday, and his brother? Well, unbeknownst to me, until they were reported to be there, they made an appearance, which is huge, and we'll talk about why next on Locked On UCLA. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. With a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert and industry-leading service. You'll always talk to a real person. Trade pros, if you're looking for that extra edge, their free Trade Master program gives you perks like dedicated phone lines, free shipping, discounts in every order. There's already thousands of skilled professionals taking on these advantages. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your order at supplyhouse.com. All right, now it's time to talk about the spring game, the spring showcase, if you will, for UCLA, an event that happened on a gloomy, dreary day in Southern California where there was rain in the morning, maybe slightly humid in certain parts, definitely raining in Pasadena, definitely raining in SoCal where I was at. So it probably didn't drive the biggest attendance at the moment, all right? And with the biggest names not in uniform slinging the football around on the gridiron at the Rose Bowl, they did make an appearance, though. Nico and Madden. When I did my Friday episode, I was not aware, it was not reported at the time that they would make an appearance, but they showed up, which I think is huge. Nico is still finishing up classes at Tennessee, and the advantage for UCLA is Tennessee's on a semester system, and while UCLA is on a quarter system, that means not only is Nico going to be done sooner, like in the next week or so, if you look at Tennessee's academic calendar, he can start learning the offense and getting things going in an offseason, if you will, start meeting with coaches and figuring out officially become a UCLA Bruin. Madden is officially a UCLA Bruin. Unlike Nico's situation, Nico is ready to go to UCLA. He just has to finish things up at Tennessee. While you have Joey Aguilar, who has to finish his classes at UCLA in the quarter before he can get to Tennessee. All right. So if you're looking at how the swap is going between the Bruins and Tennessee, Nico can learn the offense much sooner. The semester will be done. The UCLA kids are still in school for another, month or so with the quarter going on. And then UCLA didn't start till late September in their fall quarter. So that's a lot of time and a lot of football-only moments for Nico to learn. Madden's still transitioning in the transfer portal to sign with UCLA from Arkansas to the Bruins. And then you've got Joey Aguilar transitioning around. So it wasn't exactly the most highlight reel of days, right? You're like, oh, the spring showcase. It's not like, oh, what's the offense going to look like under Eric Bieniemy after a few weeks with the super senior quarterback Ethan Garbers? What's the defense going to look like under the new DC Ikaika Malloy? Those aren't the question marks going in. Now, Tino could showcase a couple of things, but I guess the story was, you had Nick Billups, who was in the transfer portal, and he's doing things still at UCLA. You had Jacob Busick, who's in the transfer portal, not even listed on the roster, handed out, still working with the Bruins on the spring game. And then you've got Luke Duncan, who is maybe trying to make some waves in the UCLA camp to be the number 2 guy on the depth chart at the quarterback position. Is Duncan that guy that could be that quarterback of the future post Nico, whether that's 1-2 years? Sometimes guys love the competition. As Rios said in his high school recruiting, you see guys like Duncan. DeShaun Foster had glowing words to say about his competition, his ability to block out the noise, be the guy, while the rest of the Bruins have almost all hit the transfer portal, most of them not even practicing anymore other than just taking classes at UCLA. And then he's sitting there working his way up to a top 2 spot on the depth chart, which would be funny if after this all plays out, Madden doesn't even play at UCLA. That would be funny, but that's a whole conversation a year or 2 away from this very moment. The Bruins, it was good to see Nico there. All right. As much as whatever I wanted or did not want to have happen in that situation, Nico will be the starting quarterback in 2025. At least he'll be starting week 1. We'll see how the season plays out. And until he leaves via the portal, the NFL draft, he will be UCLA starting quarterback. And he will draw the attention, the eyeballs. He will have so much fanfare, probably haters as well. And the Bruins, we're all going to have to accept that. The over-under or the win total has already been increased by a full win for this season. The Bruins are expected at the minimum to be on the borderline for a bowl versus 4-8. They're looking at, 6-7, trying to push 8 wins and surprise a lot of folks with a somewhat manageable early portion of their schedule in 2025 if they can knock off Utah in week 1. So Nico's got a lot of time. He showed his face and let's go meet some guys. Can officially start working while he finishes his classes at Tennessee. But the advantage is the semester going into the quarter system, that's a huge gap of classes that he doesn't have to take while he can just sit there and learn football. And Tino can work on being the QB guru, the QB whisperer, help develop this QB into something that can work. And it is funny in this, spring portal age, you got guys who aren't even on the roster, guys who aren't even expected to be in the program in your spring game, your spring showcase, working to develop, right? I think it's a funny, crazy time that we're in right now. And I can't wait to see how it all plays out. So the spring game, wasn't the beautiful blue sky, sunshine like it was in 2024. But there is still some hope for the Bruins in 2025. We just have to wait to see it in person in the fall. All right. Next, we're going to talk about UCLA's stumble in the Big Ten standings with the baseball team as they took on their bitter rivals, the crosstown showdown of Los Angeles in Irvine? ? What in the Dodgers and the Angels nonsense is what? Let's talk about that next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. Complete financial command center. Think about that. You can track all your accounts, spending in one place. You can stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. Think about that. When you start using Monarch, you're like, wait a minute, how much did I spend on dining out? Food delivery this weekend? You're like, well, thinking, no, maybe I should cut back on that. That was definitely me this weekend. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, let's talk about this weekend for UCLA baseball, right? It wasn't the best. It felt like they had some help. And then the end of the weekend, it went downhill from there, all right? So UCLA went to Irvine. They went to Great Park. And then next thing you know, after a Friday night win, you saw Washington, who was hosting the Iowa Hawkeyes, who are in first place in the Big Ten in the regular season, take down the Hawkeyes on a walk-off bunt single with 2 outs in the ninth. You're like, let's go. Like, legitimately, this is an opportunity for the Bruins to get back in it. And they were tied or close to it in the loss column on top of the Big Ten standings. All right. So it felt like, okay, UCLA is going to make up some ground. A team that's 34-13, 17-7 in Big Ten conference play. And then 2 rather easy weekends coming up. The Bruins end up losing 2 out of 3 to USC after winning the Friday night game, losing the 2 games with 2 chances to win the series. The Bruins could have been tied in the loss column. And that's just not how it goes. So let's talk about the Big Ten standings first. Iowa is 21-6. They are about to have an on-conference weekend, so those numbers will balance out. 21-6. UCLA is 17-7 overall in the Big Ten. So the Bruins could find a way to even out the records a bit. The UCLA Bruins play Illinois, and then they play Northwestern. 2 middle of the pack, all right, Big Ten teams, Northwestern under 500. The Bruins do have to go to Champaign, is it Illinois? Yes, they go to Champaign, and then they host Northwestern before going to Omaha for the Big Ten tournament. Iowa, in my mind, has a schedule, I've discussed this before, that is beneficial to UCLA. One that's beneficial for Iowa, if they take care of business, they can get into the tournament as an at-large. That's not what they're looking like right now. So Iowa, they went to Washington, lost 2 out of 3, 2 walk-offs, a walk-off bunt and a walk-off bomb, right? Those are 2 increasingly brutal ways to lose a series, but they did win Sunday 8-0. Had their midweek canceled, and now they're going to play Oregon State in Des Moines, which is not where they play at home. They're from Iowa City, but they're hosting a series against Oregon State. That's a big series for Iowa to get some cachet, get some love with the RPI, with the ratings, and turn themselves into, this could be a Big Ten contender and add some Big Ten credibility to the top of the conference, especially when the team leading the conference probably isn't as respected. I'm certainly not with the Hawkeyes. They play Oregon State for 3. If they are on a skid, like they are, they lost 3 games this last week to Illinois State and 2 to Washington, 1-3. If they don't play well versus Oregon State, they realistically could be 1-6 by the end of this week. 1-6 in their last 7, with 3 games at home versus Oregon, with a chance to clinch the Big Ten regular season title. And there's no guarantee that Oregon won't sweep them or win 2 out of 3. For UCLA, you're playing a team who's got no better than a 500 record in conference. Illinois is 12-12. Northwestern is 10-14. And the Bruins, for the most part, have been very successful over the weekends. The problem is, unlike the basketball team, which dominated their West Coast rivals, UCLA has not done that. They lost the series at Eugene. They lost the series at USC. They did win the series against Washington. And as you see at the top of the Big Ten standings, all those West Coast teams are atop the standings. 2 through 5 are UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Washington, all separated by percentage points or 2 games in the standings. And then there's Iowa, who hasn't played any of those teams. And when they did, they lost the series to Washington when they had to travel once. That's why it's kind of like, is Iowa fraudulent? The other key thing for this UCLA weekend, after they lost to USC, they won Friday 7-6, lost 7-5 on Saturday after trailing 7-0 through 7 innings, lost Sunday 11-5 in Irvine, even though this was a game where UCLA led 3-0 after the first inning, similar to what happened against Oregon. Rubber match, Sunday afternoon affair on the road, early lead, battle back, lose it late on a score that doesn't maybe indicate how close the game was when you're going deep into your bullpen in the weekend series. The Bruins are now, if you look at the top 25, pushing top 20 versus top 15, top 16. The Bruins were a top 10 team heading into Oregon. And then with them dropping midweeks versus UC Irvine, Oregon State, losing some series, they've been a couple of losing weekends, dating back to Easter, a little bit before Easter. You're not going to get a lot of credit for sweeping Penn State in pretty close fashion and beating LMU on the road. It's when you've played USC, who's now in the top 25. You played a top 10, top 8 UC Irvine, who did just lose to UC San Diego, could have swept that midweek series, not beating Oregon, who's gotten some love and been very successful as of late. The Bruins could have gone from hosting their way maybe to Omaha to, I'm not even sure if they're going to host in the first weekend. And they might get shipped to Corvallis. They might get sent to Irvine to play at Cicerone Ballpark or, at Cicerone Field at UC Irvine. That's how quickly that flips in a 2-week stretch. Now, I think it's pretty clear that UCLA is better than Iowa, and that should be proven, hopefully, in the next 2 weekends if they can take care of business, be regular season Big Ten champs, maybe win a Big Ten championship in the Big Ten tournament, and they'll get some love after that. Until then, though, the Bruins have to take care of business and know that 2 of their West Coast rivals beat the Bruins. They were just on the road versus both of those. Big Ten tournament still coming up. UCLA will be in the NCAA tournament. That is no problem. They'll be no worse unless they lose their next 8 straight games. They will be no worse than a high 2 seed in a winnable region in Southern California, most likely, definitely on the West Coast. Best case scenario, they sweep through their next 6-7 games, win the Big Ten tournament. They're on a 9-game winning streak. That would put UCLA close to a 40 to 45 win total heading into the postseason with less than 16 losses per se if they get red hot over these next couple of weeks, which they absolutely could. And then they're back into hosting a regional and hosting a super. The difference between an easy path or an extremely tough path to Omaha for the Bruins. And we'll talk more about it as the season continues. More UCLA basketball content, more softball, women's basketball, everything on this podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. It's May. Let's have some fun. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.